Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Dominic Mills Podcast. A bit of a switch up for today's episode. I will be focused on the ever-changing off-season landscape of the NBA and take a deep dive into free agency, the draft, and try to figure out who the contenders for next season will be. Joining me today, I have two special guests. Mitchell Osterlin is a former basketball player at Barry University, and after his playing career ended, he then transferred to Kansas University, where he was on the sports staff of the KJHK radio station, doing color commentary and writing articles for a few years. After that, he was quickly promoted to the sports director. As a sports director, he called or produced all the Jayhawk men's basketball and football home games. He also hosted a weekly show called The Rundown. Eli Phillips is a former Leon Lions basketball player, and in recent years, he has been able to be seen prowling down the sidelines at my high school alma mater, Lawton Childs. In his free time, he also works on the scout team for the Florida State women's basketball team. To all the real ones, you already know we dominated the Tallahassee AAU circuit in the spring of 2013. All of that next, but first, let's blast that intro. Okay, so I'm here with Mitchell Osterlin and Eli Phillips. Thanks for joining me today, guys.
Hey, thanks for having me, bro. Good to see y'all, man.
Thanks for having me.
And it's good to see you guys too. You know, usually we're in a Twitter chat room, and now we're doing a little face to face, so we're switching it up a little bit.
Yeah, it feels like Twitter in real life right now.
Yeah. Might as well call KD. We'll get the little spaces going, see if he hops in.
For real.
All right. So first, we're going to get into free agency. Every single year in the NBA, there's going to be those massive moves that change the landscape of the whole league. Really the only sport that it happens in. Doesn't happen in the NFL very often. I don't follow baseball like that, but it definitely doesn't happen in baseball the same way it happens in basketball.
Not really. Sometimes, but not so. Yeah. Not extreme.
Yeah. So I'd say the biggest thing that happened this year was the Russell Westbrook trade. Right before it happened, it was reported that the Lakers were in active discussions to acquire Buddy Hield. And then literally 2 seconds later, I think Woj came out and said that the Russell Westbrook had been traded to the Lakers. What do you guys think about that deal?
I was shocked because I thought they were for sure getting Buddy. And my initial thought was Buddy Hield would be a better fit because he's a shooter. And LeBron always wants shooters around him. But when I saw the trade, it made sense. But I'm not going to lie. The softy in me felt bad for Kyle Kuzma. I don't see the Wizards keeping him, bro, unless he pops off.
What about you, Mitchell?
I was just kind of confused because I was also at work and I saw the first tweet where it was basically like Buddy Hield's going to the Lakers, like talks are like increasing, like deal's almost done. And then I checked back on my phone like an hour later, and next thing I know, Russell Westbrook's like a Laker. So I was just really confused. But I didn't really like it at first because I was really confused about how just the spacing would work. But then kind of as I thought about it more, honestly, LeBron is getting older. And I think Russell Westbrook just allows him to have an actual like force to be able to like take the ball out of LeBron's hand and just like shoulder the load, like just carrying the ball and not making LeBron really do everything and initiate everything for the team. So I like it in that aspect.
Yeah, I agree. Initially, I was really excited just because I looked at the players they traded. I mean, KCP, Montrezl Harrell, your boy Kuzma, and a pick, and I was like, the value that I thought Russell Westbrook would bring, would be higher than that. But then, I don't know, I had a dream. It was Game 6 of the NBA Finals against the Nets. Kyrie's given Russ 40. Russ has got 12 points on 6 of 21 shooting, and he turns it over 4 times the last 4 minutes of the game, and the Lakers lose. And I don't know. I agree. I think Buddy Hield probably would have been a better fit, but if they had to give up this much, I see why they chose Russell Westbrook over Buddy Hield.
So you got Nets in 6? Is that what you're saying? Or is that just a dream?
I just have to see it, but there's not a single player on the Nets that can do anything with Kevin Durant. And the NBA said that they've changed the rules, so James Harden can't flop his way to like 2010 and 10 or 2010 and 15,
Yeah.
but he's been doing that for 10 years now. So
Yeah, that rule also messes with Trae Young's game a little bit too.
yeah,
He likes to like throw his body at guys.
I've never seen somebody go downhill off of a pick and roll and just jump in backwards into the person that was guarding him the same way that he would do routinely the entire game.
Talking about James Harden, right?
Well, both of them really, but
Both of them,
the coming off the pick and roll, having his defender on his back and then jumping back into them before he shoots is definitely a Trae Young. Definitely, in my opinion, at least, the biggest part. He is the biggest culprit of that.
Since we're talking Hawks now, my kind of random thing that I thought about the Hawks was I honestly think that they're going to have to trade John Collins in a year or two because I think that contract's awful for that team.
Yeah,
I was surprised they paid him that contract.
Yeah, he's never going to be able to produce at the level that they signed him at, for sure.
It's also just the amount of people they have that could play the 4 or the 5. So why are you going to pay like $30 million to a guy when in the upcoming years you're going to have to pay people like Hunter and like Herter and people like that?
Yeah,
and you also drafted that Okongwu dude.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I guess that brings us right into who we think the winners and the losers are for just the offseason in general. So since we started with Eli last time, Mitchell, do you have any prominent winners you'd like to talk about?
We just doing one at a time, or should I just name multiple?
You can just go. We'll hop in as we see fit.
First one I had on my list was that I just wrote down was the Warriors. I think after that draft, getting Kuminga and Moody, you can't really. That's just the best you can ask for at 7 and 14. But then adding in 3 veterans like Iguodala, Otto Porter, and Bielitsa, I think that's just a really great fit for an already kind of old core. But then you also have a bunch of young guys. I think that was just honestly arguably the best free agency they could have had at their limited cap space. Also,
yeah, I agree. I thought that they'd be a little more hamstrung than they've proven to be over the course of free agency, because they were even able to re-sign Steph to another $200 million contract. And I had Steph as a winner because he's the first player to sign multiple $200 million contracts. And I don't know, in 2012, I don't think anybody would have thought that Steph Curry would be that guy.
Wait, so he's the first guy to do that? Get multiple $200 million contracts? Wow.
Mm-hmm. I think the only players who have done it are who have just signed any $200 million are him, Rudy Gobert, Russell Westbrook, and I think John Wall signed 1 year too early for that. But yeah, sorry to interrupt you, Mitchell. You can go and keep going.
Oh, no, you're good. That honestly makes sense, though, when you think about it, because just the name of the game for like KD, LeBron, and Kawhi the last 2 years has been those just 1-1 or 2-1 contracts.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no way they're even getting to 200 mil. But the next one I have was the Nets. I really like them retaining Bruce Brown and Blake Griffin in free agency. I think them getting Patty Mills is massive. Losing Jeff Green, that kind of sucks, but they also got James Johnson, so I think that fills the hole decent enough for what they need. And then getting Cam Thomas late in the first round of the draft I really liked, and then Day'Ron Sharpe might be able to turn into something, but I'm pretty high on Cam Thomas.
Cam Thomas was a steal. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're okay. I've only been able to see Cam Thomas play like once in the summer league, and he had a really good game. Hit a nasty game winner the other day too.
Oh yeah, he did.
And then,
go ahead.
Oh no, my bad. Yeah, and then I was just gonna say for the Nets, I think just getting Patty Mills is just absolutely massive for them. Just it's like Kyrie or Harden comes off the court, and then you just throw in Patty Mills. They also got Javon Carter in that Landry Shamet trade, so that's just like a defensive body that's just gonna honestly try his ass off to just throw off the bench too.
I agree 100%. Yeah, especially when Kyrie gets some sage in his eye after he sprinkles it across the court before the game, and he can't play because he's got something in his eye. They got Patty Mills to just stand there and hit wide open threes, come off screens. I also, before we get too into it, I want to say number one winner of the offseason for me is Zach Collins' agent. Whatever percentage he makes out of that 3-year, $22 million deal, he gets to just watch the games just like I do. That's that's pretty insane. I mean, he's definitely got some talent and he's had some rough injury luck, but I would not have assumed him to make that much money. I thought he was going to be one of those vet minimum guys.
So from the Spurs fans perspective, I was shocked and so mad when it first happened, but then I honestly kind of talked myself into it because the guarantees came out. He's only 50% guaranteed for next season. And then I'm pretty sure his last year is either 0 or 25% guaranteed. So in reality, it's just like a 3-year, like $12 million deal for a former top 10 pick. That's my spin zone.
Hey, I mean that's a pretty good spin, you know. And as a Spurs fan, you know you've had to do a little spinning this offseason with that Primo pick. But I know you've come around on that, right?
So I would still rather have Moody, and now after seeing him playing Summer League, I'd still honestly rather have Sengun that the Rockets have. But in all reality, like he's shown some flashes on shot creating potential. His catch and shoot looks really good, and his defense has honestly looked really good. And the kid still doesn't turn 19 till Christmas Eve. So I'm just like, it's his basically actual college freshman year is just going to be him just kind of grinding in the G League. And so by the time when he comes back, he would have been a lottery pick next year anyway. So it's basically like stashing a first-round pick, I guess. That's my spin zone. I've talked myself into it because I'm just kind of trying to enjoy the rebuild process because it's just kind of a gut check basically whenever for the first time in your life you have like a lottery pick and like $50 million in cap space and it results in a reach on Josh Primo, Doug McDermott, Zach Collins, and then sign and trading for like Thaddeus Young. But granted, I also kind of love that. Because I did say in our infamous Twitter DM, I did say I literally wish our GM would be smart and just trade for expiring contracts instead of overpaying bums in free agency. So I will take half our cap space going to 1-year deals.
Yeah. Speaking of overpaying bums in free agency, you know, the Knicks signed Fournier to a nice contract to just score 8 points in a playoff game, the first playoff game that they get to, shooting 30-something% from the field. I do like the offseason that the Knicks had. They were in my list of winners, but man, just that, I think it's $78 million for
something like that.
Yeah, just I don't know. Eli, do you have any other winners you want to add?
Quick question about Fournier, though. Didn't he get signed to that contract right after he gave Team USA 27 points?
A few days after.
I mean, yeah, I think it was like shortly right after that game, like when France beat USA in pool play.
Well, I think it was like 2 or 3 days after.
Yeah, it was 2 or 3 days after. I was like, that's definitely a knee-jerk reaction. Like,
yeah, my Cavs decided to pick up Ricky Rubio maybe within a week of putting 38 on Team USA. So I don't know. Maybe he can teach Colin Sexton how to pass the ball while he's there.
Maybe. Oh, man. Oh, well, I do want to say a winner. I know we already talked about the Lakers, but I do say that Westbrook signing made them a winner in my eyes. Like you said earlier, Mitch, Westbrook's ball dominant, and that will take a lot of load off LeBron, especially in the regular season since he's aging. So it'll give LeBron a lot more like in-game rest instead of like, especially during the playoffs this year. Like, no offense to Dennis Schroeder, but Dennis Schroeder did not help out LeBron enough at all, especially in that playoff series against the Suns. So I think Westbrook will give LeBron a little more help to have energy to like try to get another playoff push. But I feel like the Lakers still comes down to Anthony Davis's help.
Mm-hmm. And the Lakers made a lot of really good signings. Like
they did
the Melo signing, getting Malik Monk on a $2 million contract after he was having the season that he was having before he got hurt was pretty surprising.
Yeah, and they got Kendrick Nunn too.
Mm-hmm. They picked up a lot of players, and I'm surprised I didn't talk about them a little bit more. I think I was too caught up in the I was ready to hop on the Dennis Schroeder slander once you said Dennis Schroeder.
Wait, before we talk about Dennis Schroeder, the Lakers got Trevor Ariza, right?
The ghost of Trevor Ariza.
Yeah,
I want to say they got Wayne Ellington back too.
Yes, they did. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think a
solid bets.
Throwback Hoops Instagram page posted, or somebody on Instagram posted, like a series of highlights of Trevor Ariza throwing down some dunks when he was on the Lakers, and I completely forgot that he used to dunk. I don't know why I was surprised to see a 6'8" wing throwing down dunks in an NBA game, but I was shocked. I couldn't remember the last time I had seen him dunk.
He was an athlete though with Kobe on the Lakers.
Yeah, he was.
Say one more winner for me before we move on to the losers is, I guess, partial winner. I would say the Bulls. I would consider them a winner personally, just because they're not a contender, I would say, but at least they're somebody that went from a team that was not making the playoffs in the East to probably will make the playoffs now, I'd say, if they stay healthy. So I would say they had some good pickups.
Yeah, before we hopped on, Mitchell and I were talking about the Bulls, and I feel good for Caruso that he got that 4-year, $37 million deal, and I think that they're going to be able to make the playoffs now. But I don't really see if they don't get like a top 3 seed, I don't really see them getting out of the first round. Like
me either. And one thing too, I don't know Vucevic's potential future there. Like, I was a Magic guy, so I love Vucevic, but he's a scoring center, but now he's playing with Levine and DeRozan, ball dominant wings. He may do well, but I don't know.
DeRozan showed last year that he's got a lot more playmaking than we've previously given him credit for. He had 7 assists a game last year, and I don't know. I mean, I think that team goes however far Levine takes him, really, at the end of the day. I don't know if he's going to be able to keep up his efficiency he had last year, but it's gut check time for him, because, I mean, this is the best team he's ever played on, probably one of the best teams that DeRozan's been on since he left Toronto. Mm-hmm. Just in terms of top-level talent, those Raptors teams had a lot more depth than the Bulls do now. But
they do have some depth.
Let's see here. Oh, I also had the Wizards in my winners because, I kind of gave away how I feel about Russell Westbrook when I was talking about him earlier. But turning Russell Westbrook into the pieces that they turned him into, pretty solid for Bradley Beal, and I think it's a indicator that they're planning on him staying for a while, because otherwise, they would have just held on to Westbrook, let that contract run out, and then, I don't know, go for whatever they went for after that, because they didn't really get any picks besides the number 22 from the Lakers. And who did they take with that pick?
That's a good question.
Isaiah Jackson from Kentucky.
Okay.
Oh yeah, guard.
And then they got Kispert. Then they got Kispert at 15 with their normal pick.
Yeah.
That's a pretty solid offseason. They're a lot deeper than they've been.
I feel like they actually just have a direction now, kind of, because it's not just Russ. Honestly, to be blunt, it's not just Russ, Beal, and some bums and a few young guys anymore. You actually have some competent role players, and now it feels like instead of everyone trying to recruit Bradley Beal, almost it feels like Beal could be the one recruiting them if they could figure out their cap space going forward. Just because they really do have a nice complement of role players now. You got Kuzma, you got Harrell, you got KCP, you got Dinwiddie around them. Denny Avdija and Rui Hachimura are two good young forwards. So you actually have some quality pieces there. Corey Kispert's should be a nice shooter at least. At worst case scenario, I don't really think much of him, but that's at least should be a knockdown 3-point shooter, hopefully. So you got a nice amount of pieces now. Now it's just about making them go to work. And I honestly just forgot Kuzma in there too. So they have a nice versatile lineup to be honest.
Yeah, I knew for a fact the Lakers were trading Kuzma when that report came out that he said that he knew he could average 20 and be an all-star somewhere else. I'm like, oh, he's trying to boost up that value right before they get rid of him. Definitely. I really want to see him succeed, though.
Me too.
As much as I like to clown him in our conversations and just in general when I talk about Kyle Kuzma for his hair and thinking he was better than Lonzo Ball and him getting traded for a Russell Westbrook and Lonzo signing an $80 million deal this year. But all right. Eli, start us off with a couple losers from this offseason.
Well, one loser is definitely the 76ers for not trading Ben Simmons yet. and then the reports came out, I think 2 weeks ago now, where they were like, Joel Embiid's trying to call Ben Simmons, and Ben Simmons isn't answering his calls. Obviously, I don't know if that was actually true. Rumors get spread, but I mean, we did forget one winner though. If you're talking about agents, Rich Paul is definitely a winner right now. Like getting Lonzo that deal, and like these offers he's getting for Ben Simmons, like they're ridiculous. Like,
yeah,
Ben Simmons is on James Harden trade stock right now, which makes absolutely no sense. So
there's a reason why no one's interested. Also,
exactly.
So that's who he's saying that he's worth. I feel like if they could have got something like that, they probably would have already.
Like that one meme you sent, Mitch, where Ben Simmons is interested to go to the Warriors, but the Warriors do not want him. It was just SpongeBob little fish. He was like, no thanks, I'm okay. But he was like, you can keep it.
I remember the reported offer from the Spurs that they wanted was like a young player, 4 firsts and 3 pick swaps for Ben Simmons.
Yeah, which is entirely too much.
And that young player would have most likely been Keldon Johnson or DeJounte Murray.
Yeah.
And 7 first.
Yeah, just think 76ers fans went into this offseason thinking that they were going to come out of free agency and the draft with some shooting, some spacing for Joel Embiid, and the biggest name acquisition they got was Andre Drummond.
Andre Drummond.
My hot take for the Sixers is that Embiid's going to be the one that requests a trade because they failed to surround him with talent at every step of the way.
Honestly, I would love to see Embiid play for somebody else. If they could trade him to the Trailblazers and they keep I don't know, see maybe like CJ, Nurkic, whatever else you got to throw in there, and you got Dame and Joel Embiid. That'd be a pretty solid duo.
Solid. Embiid just post on Twitter, just be like, "Fuck the process, I'm out of here." But that's the first thing that came to mind.
Because if you were really sit down and think about it, they traded Covington and Sarge for 48 games of Jimmy Butler. They traded. What was I going to say? Then they maxed Tobias Harris. They traded up to take Markelle Fultz over Jason Tatum. They sent Markelle Fultz away for a box of scraps. They traded Mikal Bridges for Zaire Smith, who they then cut. They gave Al Horford $30 million of American money per year, and then traded for Josh Richardson as well. Granted, they did flip him for Seth Curry. That's about the one good thing they've done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a good one at least.
Yeah,
getting Seth and Danny Green is the only 2 good moves they've made in Joel Embiid's whole tenure there.
Is Danny Green still a free agent, or did he? No, he re-signed with them. I believe
re-signed 2-year, $20 million.
Yeah.
I don't know. $10 million a year is not that bad.
No, their whole free agency has been re-signing Danny, re-signing Korkmaz, Andre Drummond, and Georges Niang.
Hey, Niang, solid player. Iowa State legend.
He's a solid role player for 5 minutes a game, maybe, but just do something.
It's tough seeing Philly.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna list a couple of my losers, and I'll just see what you guys, if you guys feel free to interject however you'd like. I have the Pelicans because they just signed the check on wherever Zion goes next. The Heat, Dennis Schroeder, Drummond, Embiid because of Drummond. The Cavs, Victor Oladipo, the Jazz, and 76ers fans.
76ers fans. All right. We got to talk about Dennis Schroeder. Because when's the
We've
last
waited
time
long enough.
When's the last time somebody's lost that much money after turning down a contract?
Oladipo.
Oladipo this year.
That's right. Oladipo did the same thing. I forgot.
Yeah, Oladipo passed up on a 4-year, $113 million contract, and now he's playing for the veteran minimum.
That's brutal.
Honestly, for me, the Heat's whole winner-loser status just depends on what Oladipo looks like if/when he's healthy. Because the Heat are on my question marks because technically I want to call them a win for the offseason because you got Oladipo for the freaking vetman. You got Kyle Lowry. You got PJ Tucker. You got Markieff Morris. Like, I want to call you a winner, but then it's like you look at the long-term impacts of those moves. In like 3 years, you're going to be paying like 38-year-old Kyle Lowry $30 million. Jimmy Butler is going to be in a super max, making, I think when I looked it up that year, that's going to be about $45 million. Bam's going to be making around $40 million, and then Duncan Robinson's going to be making around $20 million.
And Tyler Hero is going to be coming up on a free agent. Man, yeah. When you started that, I was ready to switch him into like a maybe category, but you just sealed the deal for me because I don't see them beating anybody at the top of the East the next 3 years. I don't see them beating Brooklyn or the Net. I'm sorry, Brooklyn or the Bucks.
Yeah,
and that means they're not getting past the second round.
They need a Suns-esque luck of injuries where you can play like basically what the Suns did, play the Lakers without AD, play the Nuggets without Jamal Murray, and play the Clippers without Kawhi. If they could get that type of luck, then maybe. But I just don't see them beating the Bucks or the Nets.
Yeah, we'll get to the Suns being pretenders later, actually.
Suns were my slight winners, but I also think they're frauds.
Yeah, I'd agree with that statement. Do you guys have any other losers you want to talk about?
The two other ones I had that haven't been mentioned yet was the Blazers and the Mavs. The Blazers for the rumors came out when around the Olympics started that, hey, Dame might want out. Dame's like starting to get upset. Dame like wants improvements made, right? Well, how did the Blazers respond? You lose Melo. You lose Cancer. I have to just name him because he's not on the roster. You lose Zach Collins, and you bring in Ben McLemore, Cody Zeller, and Tony Snell. So your team gets worse after Dame comes out that he's like actually starting to get pissed off, and you just made no improvements at all, and you actually got worse. I have them as a loser. The Mavs, you basically traded Josh Richardson for a bag of chips after you just traded Seth Curry for him. That already kind of makes you a loser, but then like you have Luka Doncic, arguably like top 5 player, French top 5 player in the league, and the best move you make is just getting Reggie Bullock. Like, you got to be better than that. You have, like, one of the best players in the league, and you just got to start surrounding him with actual talent. Like, he has nobody else to take the pressure off him outside of Tim Hardaway Jr., and you just need more than that. Like, you could have at least just made a pursuit for any type of scoring guard, but no, you just sat there and just brought in Reggie Bullock.
Mitchell, so am I hearing that you don't believe in Porzingis?
I don't think anybody does. It's like I really liked him in New York before he tore his ACL, which is like the saddest thing because like that Porzingis from like New York with his actual athleticism and actual like somewhat rim protecting would have actually been really fun. But now he's just kind of a hole of himself, and it's just a mess because Luka just has no help and just has to do everything himself. I like them adding Sterling Brown for dirt cheap. Like I kind of like that move. He's kind of a versatile wing that I've always been a little bit high on, but for no reason. But outside of that, just you gotta give Luka some help. Same thing with the Blazers. You gotta give Dame more help. And what do? Like Melo was arguably their third, fourth best scorer last year. You just let him walk, and you replace him with Ben McLemore and Tony Snell for the wings.
Yeah, I got caught up watching a Porzingis Knicks highlight tape the other day, and it just made me like, usually I watch a highlight tape of somebody and I end up leaving feeling like excited, like, yeah, like that dude's that dude. And then I just was so sad. I was like, that we're never going to see him do anything like that ever again. I really thought that he'd be able to turn it around by now, but I feel like with knee injuries and all of the stuff that's happened with him, like if he was going to come back, he would have came back already.
Most definitely. I wanted to bring back up the Pelicans. You mentioned the Pelicans.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't see much of a future with them now. With Zion, like,
Mm-hmm.
do you think he stays like long term? I don't see why he would, unless they
I
pick up somebody else.
honestly, I don't know really. Every fiber of my being, every article I read keeps saying, "Oh, Zion's going to leave before he signs his rookie extension. Zion's going to leave before his rookie extension." But nobody's ever really turned that money down before, and I'm assuming he's going to make an All NBA team before then, just the way he's playing. So they're going to be able to offer him the super max. But man, I don't know. I haven't heard this often that somebody is unhappy somewhere this early.
Yeah, and they're not really.
I think part of it might be just because he got drafted maybe a week or so after the Anthony Davis trade. And you got Lonzo, Ingram, and Hart and a bunch of picks back. Josh Hart is still in free agency. You already lost Lonzo Ball. And then your two biggest moves other than that have been bringing in Eric Bledsoe and Steven Adams, who you sent out for Jonas Valanciunas. And while I really like Jonas Valanciunas and I honestly think he's an underrated player in the game, that's not moving the needle for you. That's just a slightly above average center. And that's what you got for your two biggest acquisitions. And you had to give up a top 10 pick to get it. Mm-hmm. And then what'd you do with the pick that you ended up getting back? You traded it to sign Devontae Graham, that you basically created all that cap space to do, which turned into Kai Jones, who actually is a reason why I had the Hornets as a winner. And that's another conversation. But so it's like you gave up a first. So it's like I like Devontae Graham. As a Kansas alum, like I have to be in love with Devontae Graham. I think it is a good fit for them, but it's like you could have just, with a cap space you created, you could just match Lonzo Ball. But you lost him, which was a big part of that Anthony Davis trade, which makes that trade honestly look like shit now because all you got out of Lonzo was like 2 years that you didn't even make the playoffs and weren't even competitive, and he was only good in one of those seasons. And now you might lose Josh Hart, and it's the same story there. So that means only Ingram lasted longer than 2 years that you didn't even make the playoffs in. And one of the years for the top 10 pick, you shipped it out for nothing just to have the rights to sign Devontae Graham. So you lost Lonzo Ball and a first-round pick just to get Devontae Graham, and that is ass.
Yes. That was beautiful.
That was so eloquent, Mitchell. That was wonderful. Like everything I was just thinking, you just poured it all out so wonderfully. That's
to perfection.
Yeah, I mean, and I honestly don't have anything to add there. Eli, do you have anything to add about the Pelicans there? I mean,
nah. How y'all think Dennis Schroeder is going to fit with the Celtics?
Honestly, I like the deal for the Celtics a lot more than I like it for Schroeder, obviously, like money reasons and whatnot. Yeah. But the Celtics needed another scoring guard. I want to say I want them to have a pass first point guard, but literally every other point guard that they have, you can say is a pass first point guard because they can't score.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think I don't know. I don't see the Celtics ceiling either. I don't see them even getting past the first round.
Yeah, potentially on matchups.
Mm-hmm.
They're a really intriguing team to me just because I don't know what to expect, because it's like I almost wanted to call them a loser because they lost Kemba, because that was like their main response to losing Kyrie. So now that, in my opinion, just makes losing Kyrie look way worse. But then it's like, I don't know. They brought in Horford, which I like for their lineup, and because he already kind of knows the system, knows how things work there. I kind of like that. They brought in Kanter as a backup, which he honestly thrived there a few years ago. There's already familiarity there. But then getting Josh Richardson for basically cookies, I honestly kind of like that for him because they really had no backup wings at all. Josh Richardson might be a trash can. At least he was in Dallas and in Philly, but he really wasn't used right. And they kind of did talk about they might use him as a backup point guard more, so maybe they can unlock something there. But then just having Schroeder, I kind of like that as well. Their roster, while it's not the best, it's just more improved than last year, definitely.
Yeah, and I do like the Kemba acquisition, or not the Kemba acquisition, the Kanter acquisition. But the only thing that I don't like about it, I guess, is it makes me question what they think about players like Robert Williams, Time Lord. I thought that he played well in the limited run that he got last year, but them adding Kanter, I think it kind of muddies the water for him at least, or they may just play they may just play Robert Williams in those backup minutes. But Cantor's too good a player to be a third string center somewhere. I like Cantor's game.
I just respect it because it is what it is at this point. Like, defensively he's not the best, but he's going to be one of the best offensive rebounders in the league and be a bucket, basically. And I honestly think that's why the Celtics got him, just because they really had no consistent scoring outside of their big three and occasionally Marcus Smart burst games. They had no semblance of scoring, and now you have like a bunch of guys that can at least possibly do that on a given night, like Schroeder, Richardson, Horford, and what's his name? I can't even think of it right now. Wow. Cantor, wow. But now they have like 4 guys that can actually like potentially be like around double-digit scores per game, which is big for them.
Well, before we forget, there is one loser that I mentioned one time and have not gotten to go in on. I'm going to do that now. The Cleveland Cavaliers.
Oh.
We had the number 3 pick in the draft. We picked Mobley. The limited action I've seen of him in the summer league, I really like. I like that we were able to get Ricky Rubio. But let me tell you why we're one of the biggest losers of the offseason. The summer that LeBron James decided to take his talents to Los Angeles, we were presented with a unique opportunity. We could have had an advance on our rebuild. Everybody knew we were going to be bad. I knew we were going to be bad. We definitely talked about how bad we were going to be. There was a nice player that could have been sent away in Kevin Love. He had a nice contract. We could have definitely got some picks from him. Doesn't even matter where they were, what they would have been. The players we would have got. I don't really care. But at this point, it's looking like we've paid him $30 million the last 3 years to just throw the ball at other players on the team, whine, complain, get suspended, do nothing. And we're going to buy him out this year. I'm almost positive of it. He's going to go to a team like the Lakers, the Nets, somebody like that on a minimum deal. And he's going to drop a big game in the playoffs just because he's a spacer that could shoot. And I'm going to watch that game. And I'm going to tie a noose around my neck. Whether or not I jump depends on Evan Mobley's season. All right. That's my Cavs rant.
The one question I have to ask is what do you think about Jared Allen's contract after you drafted Mobley?
I think that we can play Mobley with Jared Allen, but I remember talking about it, and I said that the maximum I would have wanted to pay Jared Allen was $20 million a year, and we're paying him $20 million a year.
Yeah,
or is it 25? Yeah, 500. So it could be worse, but if we're giving $30 million to Kevin Love, we might as well give $20 million to Jared Allen. So, and we gave I don't even know how much money to Andre Drummond last year. So,
what?
Goodness gracious, people are playing games.
Do you think Colin Sexton gets traded?
Man, I really hope he does. Him or Garland. I know Sexton's going to have a higher trade value, though. I don't know who's going to really want him, but I don't know. To be honest, I think we're just going to have to see how the season starts. Because I'm not going to lie, I really wanted Jalen Green. His interviews are one thing, but I really like watching him play.
Me too.
Yeah, he's really good. The top like 7 of this draft. Okay, wait, this can make me go on a rant. The Thunder are a loser of this offseason. They haven't even done anything, but it's just we can all agree they blatantly tanked last season. And there was like 5-6 really good, I feel like bona fide prospects in this draft. And you didn't come away with any of them. And you just reached on a white Australian guy, just paying. Like you didn't.
They got Book Knight, didn't they?
No, they drafted that Josh Giddey. Book Knight's in Charlotte.
Yeah,
he is.
I think they traded him, right? Didn't they trade?
Who am I thinking of?
They got Josh Giddey.
Josh.
Yeah.
And then they got Trey Man at 18. You
Trey Man.
sucked all year. You blatantly tanked. And what do you get? Like, everyone likes to talk about Presti's picks. It's like, okay, well, you blatantly sucked for a full year on purpose. And what do you get? Well, you didn't get Cade. You didn't get Jalen. You didn't get the other Jalen. You didn't get Mobley. You didn't get Scotty Barnes. You didn't get Kuminga. You got a white Australian guy.
That's who I thought they were going to pick was Kuminga, and I was really surprised. That's okay. That's what I couldn't remember.
I thought they were taking Book Knight or Kuminga, and then they took that dude, and I just started laughing, mainly because I was terrified of the Spurs taking that guy at 12.
Yeah.
But then I got primo.
Have you guys seen the Warriors fans calling Kuminga cum bucket?
Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
A YouTuber started that. Called him the cum bucket on a YouTube video, and then
I didn't know that.
I think his name is Kenny Beecham.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, that I just
So
you're gonna work your entire life to be an NBA player, and the night that you're drafted, you immediately become known as the cum bucket.
and having a great summer league, like.
Yeah, he had a nasty move to a dunk last night.
Yeah.
I think it was two. Was it last night or the night before?
It was either it was one of the last 2 days.
Yeah, one of the last nights. Yeah, he definitely did.
I really kind of like the Warriors lineup after that draft. Well, if Clay is anything like what he used to be, just having Steph and Clay back, obviously, having Draymond, having Wiggins, obviously, but then Otto Porter, Iggy, Moody, and Kuminga just all as wing options. I just really like that compared to the complete lack of depth they had last year, and that Toscano Anderson guy that kind of showed he can play a little bit last year.
Yeah, and Jordan Poole made some strides.
Yeah, true. I forgot about that. And then Wiseman's year 2 development.
Yeah,
well, that's the thing about the Warriors. They still technically have all their picks. I know they won't be that high a pick, so their value isn't too insane there. But you have all your picks. You have Wiggins' contract. You have Moody. You have Wiseman. You have Kuminga. Like, that's an insane trade package if they really want to get aggressive and make a move at some point.
Yeah, that's facts.
I expect them to see how the team, because Clay's not going to be there the first, couple months, right?
I honestly don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, whenever he comes back, I think that they're going to try to just run it with the squad that they have for a little while, and then by the time the trade deadline comes around, because I'm sure he'll be back by then. By the time the trade line comes around, if they're not in the spot that they're in, I don't know. Do you guys think that if they do decide to trade some pieces, do you guys see them going for the young guns first, or do you think someone like Draymond or Clay could potentially be on the chopping block if they come back and they're not produced? Just purely theoretical.
I think Draymond could. Clay, it's just really going to depend on what he looks like and what other teams value him as, I guess. But Draymond, I could definitely see. I was honestly debating while I was listing off of Warriors trade piece. I was debating on listing Draymond, but I didn't want to be too disrespectful. Because I was like, at the end of the day, he's probably getting his jersey in the rafters someday over there.
Yeah,
So it is going to be kind of a tough move to make, but I honestly think they would consider it just because if you're going to be paying Steph another $200 million contract, you can't really afford too many quote-unquote wasted years.
Mm-hmm. And, yeah, Draymond only has – every year that you go by and you're not a contender, Draymond is getting significantly worse on the offensive end. I mean, he averaged 6 points a game this year. And his value – go ahead.
I'm really concerned about his fit next to Wiseman, if Wiseman even does take the step, just because of Draymond's complete lack of shooting. I know you have Steph and Clay, but just I don't know.
Yeah, Steph, Clay, and Wiggins next to Draymond and Wiseman. Just I don't know. All right, so let's get into this list. We got some contenders, pretenders, some teams we find interesting, and then everybody else. I have the list as irrelevance. But to be honest, I only have 3 teams for my contenders to win the championship. I might be a hot take. Sue me. I got the Bucks, the Lakers, and the Nets. Bucks coming off a championship. I think Giannis is going to be even better next year. The Lakers, obviously, we've talked about them a lot. And then I still think that if the Nets were healthy last year, granted, if there was not a team in the league that was touching them by the time playoffs came around.
Oh, yeah,
The Bucks look lost when it was just KD and Kyrie.
Totally.
So for some pretenders, I got the Nuggets, the Suns, the Warriors with the question of Klay's health, the Hawks, the Heat, the Jazz, the Mavs, and the 76ers pending a Ben Simmons trade where they pick up an all-star. If they don't do that, they're straight in the irrelevant list.
What's your thoughts on the Nuggets?
I'm not going to lie. We were talking about Schroeder earlier. I really wanted to see them sign Schroeder. If the Celtics could get him on a minimum deal, I don't know. I thought they could have tossed another mill or two his way. Just until Jamal Murray comes back. Granted, not the same level at all, but you can only ask Jokic to do everything for so long.
Yeah,
I agree with that. I've never really been high on. I was never really too high on the Nuggets before the Jamal Murray injury, just because I really don't think Jamal Murray is basically good enough to where their roster is to lead them to where they need him to, just because they really don't have that reliant third option.
Yeah.
And then the Suns, I don't want to slander Devin Booker because I love him. He's just not good enough to be your best player in a championship team. It is what it is. Like, that's also why I don't really get what the Bulls have done, what they've done, because I'd throw them in the pretender just because people were hyping them a lot, like after their moves, because it's just like we just saw you're not winning titles with a Devin Booker-esque player. And it's the same thing for the Bulls. Like, you're not winning with Zach LaVine as your best player. That like a top 20 player, just not winning in the NBA. Like, you can like win and make the second round, maybe even make a conference finals run, sure, but you're not winning the finals. So like that's just where I struggle with just like teams like the Bulls, Denver, and honestly even Phoenix.
Mm-hmm. So for Zach LaVine, do you guys think he's like a good number 2 guy or a good number 3 guy?
I think it could be a 2 if you like basically swapped him for Middleton out. I think he would be a number 2 in the Bucks in the Bucks last year.
That would be interesting to see
like
him
this,
on the.
I think he'd need to be on a team where his best player is like a top 5-ish player. But if you like put him on a team like that, I do believe you could win a championship if you have like a top 5 player around him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. A 2. If he was a 3, it'd
be a pretty nasty team, to be honest.
Yeah, it'd probably be a super team.
Yeah.
But if Zach LaVine could become a better defender, in my opinion, I think he could potentially flirt with that.
He played pretty good defense in the Olympics. Granted, he's playing against people like
he did though.
Fournier, but
he did look better on defense, so that would be intriguing to watch.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys have anybody else you guys want to add to the list of contenders before we move to pretenders?
Only team I'd add barring health is the Clippers.
Okay.
Just the one free agent acquisition that I really love for them that I'm intrigued by is just Justice Winslow if he could stay healthy. I just really think that's just an interesting ad for them. But then just talking about contenders, the only other thing I'd add is I've honestly just kind of obsessed with the Bucks offseason. Just if you include in their offseason that Dante DiVincenzo's coming back. Because if you honestly go and look up the Game 6 box score for the Bucks, their bench, Bobby Portis played 23 minutes. Pat Connaughton played 23 minutes and didn't score. Jeff Teague played 2 minutes. And now you brought I'm pretty sure Connaughton's back, and then they re-signed Portis, so you got those 2 guys back. But then now you're just adding in Rodney Hood, Grayson Allen, and George Hill to that mix, and that's honestly, with no cap space, that's about as good as an offseason you could have had.
Yeah.
So I really like what the Bucks did.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit, but how many wins do we think the Bucks need to get for Giannis to get another MVP? Because I think that the biggest, everybody talked about voter fatigue with him after he won those back-to-back MVPs, but he's got the championship now, and he fucking balled to get it.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know, I think they're going to be on his stuff to start the year, especially if they start out like 8-0, 9-0.
Oh yeah, be all over Sports Center.
Mm-hmm.
But I would
Honestly,
say
it just depends
60,
what the other
65
teams do.
wins.
That's kind of like a dumb, like obvious statement, but like it just kind of depends on like what the other teams do, because you
Mhm.
could basically have those, to be blunt, regular season frauds, like say your Utah Jazz, your 76ers, or like the Suns, teams like that, where they just go absolutely inferno in like the regular season and like just bump the Bucks down, because the Bucks honestly might, who knows how serious they're going to be taking the regular season after winning the title. So like I think it honestly just depends on like what other teams are doing, because say like Philly honestly puts up like a number one seed again, and but Embiid just like plays more games. Like that's
Mhm.
just, it's just going to depend. Because let me
Okay.
look. Yeah, Philly. Yeah, because Philly would have been on pace. I think if they kept playing, would have been on pace for like a 60-something win season last year. So I think it just depends on what the other teams do. Because like if say like hypothetically say let's just say Luka absolutely just backpacks the Mavs to like third in the West or something, that might just like outweigh it, just because it's Luka. He's going to be putting up some like absurd like 35, like 12-8 or something.
I agree. I think Luka's a huge threat to win the MVP next year, especially if they're any good.
Most definitely.
Yeah, I think
All right.
I think like the
Go ahead.
dark horse MVP just real quick would just be like Trae Young, like Luka, people like that. If they could just like backpack their teams to like a really good record. Other than that, I really only see like Jokic or Embiid as comp to Giannis.
Mhm.
Because I think the Nets have too many mouths to feed. I just think that LeBron's not going to go as hard in the regular season to win an MVP.
Yeah, I think he learned his lesson this year, doing everything he could to win an MVP this late in his career.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
Kawhi's out, so he's not going to win it. And Dame just doesn't put up the assist or the rebounds to ever really win MVP, to be honest. So like it really honestly is to me just like a 5-6 person race for MVP.
Mm-hmm.
You think Steph could sneak his way in if he pops off?
I do.
He's one of my people.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to name mine, I'd say pretty much everyone I listed, Giannis and Steph, like Trae, Luka, Embiid, Jokic, Giannis, Steph would be like the only people I think really have like a legit shot.
Maybe Donovan Mitchell if the Jazz were the one seed again.
The Jazz would
I
win,
don't-
but I just don't know if he'll put up like the stats to outweigh the people who are putting up like almost triple doubles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He'd have to put up like the numbers he gets in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause there's definitely a big jump up for him in terms of his regular season numbers and his playoff numbers.
That's true.
But I don't know. They race out. They get the number one seed. They win. They have more wins than everybody in the West by like 10 games, maybe. Maybe in the entire NBA by 10 games, I could see it. All right. Who do you guys have as some of your pretenders?
Some of them I just don't know like if they really even qualify, but for me it's the Blazers definitely. I'm gonna go as far to say just the Grizzlies and the Pelicans, just from like a fringe playoff competitive standpoint, and then I'd go and say the Mavs just because they didn't do anything, the Suns and the Nuggets for the West, and then out in the East I'd go the Hawks, the Celtics, and the Knicks, and then the Heat. I'm just gonna leave a question mark by pending Oladipo's health. And then the Sixers, I'm not even going to bother putting them on my pretenders list, because I don't really think after last year, if they run it back and don't trade Simmons or Harris, I don't even know how anybody could qualify them as a contender to even be a pretender. Like everyone, they are who they are. Unless Danny Green is just goated and just makes that much of a difference with this just tiny bit of added spacing and wing depth. Unless that makes all the difference in the world. Like it is what it is.
What about you, Eli?
I like those lists that Mitch just named. I would say the biggest pretender that comes to mind right now is the Phoenix Suns, just because, I mean, they made a great run, but they didn't really get that much better. And we all know, like, the run they made was based off injury luck. And, like, I don't know, them. I want to say the Utah Jazz, too, but I really like Donovan Mitchell, so I don't want to fully count them out. But, I mean, they got exposed in the playoffs. Like with Rudy Gobert at the 5, so it's hard.
By Terrence Mann. Who would have thought?
Terrence Mann. Like, and that was like bad coaching too. Like,
yeah. I mean, shit.
Because Terrence Mann, like you said it, Mitch, when it happened. Like Terrence Mann got 37 points off wide open threes and layups or dunks. Like,
Oh, I don't even want to
no.
hate on him because he dropped that in a playoff game, like a clutch playoff game. But I'm like, that was just the easiest, like almost 40-point game I'd ever seen in my life. It was just uncontested corner threes where he'd like literally have like 3 seconds to either dribble again or
Yeah.
just wait, and then just fast break layups. And it's just, what are we doing?
Yeah. It's just,
Yeah.
like,
Before that game, his career high was 25.
like at any level, right?
Yeah, well, in the NBA, I'm not
Oh, he had
super
25
sure.
in the
I know
NBA?
he didn't score a lot at Florida State, but
No, he did.
you go from 25 being the most you ever score in an NBA game to dropping 40 on the Defensive Player of the Year in a closeout game. That's pretty solid. Like,
Yeah, that was sick. That was amazing. But I was just still like, just kind of like exposed to Jazz though. Like,
mhm.
I think the Jazz getting
them.
I think the Jazz getting past Shal and Rudy Gay as possible small ball fives helps a little, but I still don't think they're winning anything.
Yeah, those
So
were
I
good
think they
pickups.
are pretenders. They're good pickups for what they are. I even think Hassan's a good pickup for what it is. Yeah, he's going to get played off the court in the playoffs just like Gobert does, honestly. But considering their backup option last year was Derek Favors, Hassan's still an upgrade over that. Their like small ball five last year was like George's Niang or Ingles or Bogdanovich, and Paschal or Rudy Gay is like way more capable of doing that than either one of them.
Okay.
But it's like they still are what they are. They're the Jazz.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I also have the Jazz in my pretenders. We have a pretty similar list, Mitchell. I have the Nuggets, the Suns, the Warriors, the Hawks, the Heat, the Jazz, the Mavericks, and the 76ers in my pretenders list. I did have the Blazers, the Grizzlies, and the 76ers in my boring/irrelevance tier because I don't think the Blazers are going to be able to do much to move the needle no matter what moves they make. I think that they're going to be like a 5 to 10 seed and be bounced in the first or second round. And that's pretty much what they've done every year besides the year they went to the West Finals. The Grizzlies, I think, got worse going from Valanciunas to Steven Adams. So I think that they're not even going to make the playoffs. And I'm so tired of watching Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid together. So they're just boring to me.
I doubt he's still there though. Ben Simmons.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure they're going to trade him. All right. What about teams that you guys find interesting that may not be at that top level? Like we mentioned some of the teams like the Celtics and the Bulls and the Knicks. And I don't know. I have like the Hornets in there just because I love watching LaMelo Ball. I want to see the Pacers with Rick Carlisle. I have the Timberwolves in here because I don't know. They've piqued my interest. I want to see how well they do this year after all of their time just being cheeks.
Well, they just had to get healthy.
Yeah, but even when they've been healthy, they've been terrible. I don't know how Karl Anthony Towns' contract's coming up soon, so I don't know if he's gonna. I know he's playing with D'Angelo Russell now, and D'Angelo Russell went to Ohio State, so I'm legally allowed to say that I like him before I criticize, or I'm legally required to say that I like him before I say bad things about him. But if Karl Anthony Towns could have that all over again, I think you tell him to hold off on that or try to trade for Booker instead.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The Hornets were my number one team on my interesting / intrigued to watch, just because for them at least, I think that Oubre ad is huge. Just because honestly, last year, when he was healthy, Gordon Hayward was really, really freaking good. And when he got hurt, they really didn't have that great of wing options. Just having Oubre as that just kind of safety net is really good. I am honestly strangely, for a backup center at least, I'm strangely high on Mason Plumlee just in any team. I really liked him in Denver at least. And so
isn't he going to be the starter?
I think he might be the starter, which makes me kind of hold up on saying I really like that. If he was their backup, I'd literally love them getting Plumlee. But I still think that's good enough just to be just an at least scorer for them. It can't be worse than what they had last year.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think the Hornets are really fun going forward. And then other interesting teams, let me think. I'm really intrigued to see the Pacers fully healthy, just with Brogdon, Warren, Turner and Sabonis because someone was just always hurt last year for them. So I'm just really intrigued to see that going forward. The Warriors are also my interesting team just because I want to see what they look like with Clay back. Like I'm really curious to see that. And then the last two, I really want to see how Beal does with an actual like competent of role players around him for once because it honestly feels like his whole career, whether it be Westbrook or John Wall, it's been him and another pretty decent player, and then to be honest, just like a bunch of bums. So I'm curious to see how Beal looks.
Can't play defense.
No, and then my bias pick is the Spurs kind of interest me. I know they interest nobody else, but I literally am just curious to see what happens with a roster that is literally like 75% of people age 25 and under. I'm just curious to see what it looks like. See if anybody breaks out, like see if anybody could be that all-star level player. Or look like they have the potential to be.
That is so.
Yeah, the Spurs have a lot of interesting young guys that I really like. I want to see if Keldon Johnson has a jump in his production after playing with Team USA. I've always loved DeJounte Murray's game. I had him and dropped him on my fantasy team last year, probably 100 different times. He's really solid. Let's see. All right, we got boring and irrelevant teams. You know, we got the obvious. We got the Rockets, the Pistons. Eli, I don't mean to rag on your squad, but your Magic are in there.
So boring.
But
Franz Wagner. Like
but you got Wagner and Jalen Suggs though.
Yeah, you got Suggs.
I love the Jalen Suggs pick.
Jalen
Suggs pick was great.
Yeah, you guys had a pretty good draft. I mean, Wagner's NBA ready, and Suggs is pretty much NBA ready. I haven't got to see any of their summer league action.
Really good in summer league. Suggs has been great in summer league.
I was about to say I haven't heard anything about Wagner, but I've heard Suggs has been good.
Yeah, Wagner's been okay. It's just kind of. It's crazy to watch Orlando's summer league because like the starting five in the summer league is more than likely going to be the starting five in a regular season. So it's like already watching Magic basketball, baby. Let's go.
Is Jonathan Isaac supposed to come back anytime soon?
He's supposed to not the start of the season, but he's supposed to come back early season. I don't know what he's gonna be like.
Well, you guys will have Markelle Fultz, Jonathan Isaac, Mo Bamba. You know,
don't get me started on Mo Bamba.
Is Okiki back to life?
He's not playing summer league.
I know you drafted him when he had a torn ACL right off of that at all.
Yeah, right after. That was sad because he was having a great tournament too before he tore his ACL.
I know. I watched him murder us courtside, and that was not fun.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, that was the game Auburn decided to rain down like 18 threes on our neck in the first 10 minutes.
That was a good team that year.
Oh, they were so fun to watch.
But he is not back yet. He's supposed to come back this year. They haven't really said yet. I think. Could be mistaken on that.
Okay. Well, that's all I got. Is there anything else you guys want to say to cap things off? You know, anything? Any predictions for the NBA season or anything?
One boring team I want to add is the Raptors.
Ooh, yeah.
I don't really need to see Fred VanVleet, Siakam, and OG Anunoby. Like Scotty Barnes makes things a little more interesting, but like those main three core players, I just don't really like. It just is what it is. They just don't excite. There's not much more excitement because Siakam really stagnated once Kawhi left. So like it's just kind of just blah.
Do you guys think that they're going to trade Siakam this year?
I would. I just fully embrace the rebuild. See if you can get some more like fringe, like 5 picks, get more like Scotty Barnes-esque prospects, and just like actually start building something instead of just like because like honestly, like what's their ceiling this year? Because in no way, shape, or form are they touching the 76ers, the Nets, the Bucks, the Hawks, the Celtics, the Heat. Like that's already 6 teams. They're not touching the Bulls. That's 7. Like their best case scenario is lucking their way in an 8 seed, but they're not better than the Knicks, like the Wizards or the Pacers either, or the Hornets. So it's just like they have a bunch of guys under big contracts, but their ceiling is literally ass. So it's just like you might as well just get it over with.
Scotty Barnes has had a pretty good. Oh man, Siakam's got 3 more years of 33 mil, 35 mil, and 37.
It's crazy. That dude was nasty. Went to the bubble and turned into a pumpkin. Then was a pumpkin all of last season.
We can trade Kevin Love and a couple first-round picks and get us a nice Pascal Siakam in Cleveland. I'll cop the jersey.
Hey, maybe a new scenery is what he needs.
I'd like to see him on another contender.
I just want to see him with someone as a legit first option because while I was taking all the attention, he was like honestly kind of nasty.
Man, I caught so much shit from people I worked with that NBA Finals because I kept telling them that Siakam was cheeks, that he was going to get clamped up by Draymond. I said, he's literally got one move. And they're like, oh, yeah, but, you know, he was cooking Draymond, so I look like a dummy, and now he hasn't done anything since then. And I don't see any of those people, so I can't talk my junk to him.
The thing I hated the most about it was my Siakam take after he got extended was he hasn't proved anything without Kawhi. This man's a fraud. And then he went off for that whole first season, and then I look like a dumbass. But then, of course, like then the bubble happens. Now this season happens, and now I look kind of right. But that one extension, that class I look like a dumbass for is I questioned the Jaylen Brown extension when it happened.
Yeah.
He just never averaged like over like, I want to say like 15, 17 points a game. They dropped a bag on him, and I was just like, I questioned that, but okay.
I did too. I think we talked about that. I don't think any of us liked that contract when they gave it to him, and he snapped this year.
I'm looking fantastic. At it right now. He averaged 14.5 in 2017, averaged 13 points in 2018 on 46% shooting, 34 from 3, only 4 rebounds. And then he got the extension, then hopped up to 20 points, 6 boards, and then 25 and 6 last year on 48% shooting, 39.7 from 30.
Yeah. That's an extension that went right. I know Philly fans are just looking at that and punching the air, knowing that they're paying Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons around that much money, and he's just doing nothing.
Or they had a number 1 pick on their draft in the same class as Simmons, and he's not even on the roster anymore, and he traded him for like a summer league player in Jonathan Simmons.
Yeah.
Hey, Jonathan Simmons.
Spurs legend Jonathan Simmons.
Yeah, Spurs
That
legend.
man was a king in the San Antonio, and then like was honestly dog shit like everywhere else he went.
Yeah.
Because all he did was hustle and run around as fast as he can, and it worked in our system. But anywhere else where there's not as competent of a system, it was a shit show.
Yeah, make occasional threes.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much.
Ooh, also, before we go, there's the Malice in the Palace documentary that just got released on Netflix. Have you guys gotten a chance to check it out yet?
No, I haven't gotten that.
Produced by Jermaine O'Neal himself.
Oh, I gotta watch. I'm watching that tonight. I did not know it's on Netflix.
I'm gonna watch that tonight. Once we finish this call, that's my. I don't know why that reminded me of it, but that reminded me of it, and
I'm glad you brought it up.
All right. Well, I don't have anything else. Eli, do you have anything else?
Chuma Kiki did play this year, Mitch. He averaged 7.8 points per game, 4 rebounds. Okay. Go Magic.
Oh, nice.
Go Magic.
But thank you, Dom, for doing this podcast, bro. It's great to see y'all boys, man.
Yeah, man. We need to do this a little more often. As wait a minute. I can't believe we haven't mentioned the young goat Justin Fields once on this podcast.
I was about to say that.
We have
I was thinking football.
Chicago Bears super fan Mitchell Osterland here. Mitchell, how are you feeling after that performance by Justin Fields today? 14-20, $175, 1 touchdown running, 1 touchdown throwing it. How are you feeling right now? No picks. I think he almost threw one.
He almost the tight end fell down on that route, so that didn't help him at all. But so the first 2 drives, I was so nervous because we went 3 and out on both of those. Like the first drive wasn't his fault at all because they called a run. It was a 1-yard run. they call it a rollout, and he passes the flat for like a 2-yard gain. So it's 3rd and 7. But then we get back-to-back false starts. So it's 3rd and 17. So he goes 3 and out. So that's not his fault. And then the next drive, 3 and out again. So I'm just like, okay, fuck. I'm like, this isn't looking good. And then he does like a 40-second drive to get a field goal. But then in the second half, like, good Lord, man, that dude looked insane. Because he started 2 of 6 and then finished 14 of 20. So, like, he finished like 12 of his like next 14 for like 100 yards passing, like 35 on the ground, 2 tuds, like scored 3 consecutive drives. Like, it was incredible. Just because I've honestly never seen a quarterback this hype. Because, like, the weird thing is everybody loves Fields. Like, even on Twitter, like, people not even affiliated there, everyone loves Fields. But then Trubisky, like, when we took him, that's the only other type of quarterback prospect I've seen in my life. Like, the beat writers were literally in practice being like, this guy is a 2-pack of ass. And then Fields is like every day, they're like, even if he's not overwhelmed, like a superstar the whole entire day, they're like, he just leaves you with like 3-5 throws each practice where you're just like, God damn, this guy's nice. And then just being able to see him on the run today was just incredible. I'm a massive fan already.
Okay.
Let's go.
Right. Yeah, that's what I like to hear.
Oh,
All right, guys.
Today.
Yeah, that's awesome. Were you drinking a little bit too, Mitchell? I hope you
Earlier,
were.
yeah. Or
Okay.
I had to. I was too nervous. I
had to calm the nerves.
No, I was
gotta
terrified because we were the only game on during that time. So if he was ass, it was just going to be all of Twitter laughing at us how every single primetime game the Bears normally play is. We just lose like 20-10 and everyone just laughs. It's like the Bears offense fucking sucks. And I just have to sit there like I'm fucking miserable.
Yeah, you know, this is the start of something new, something fresh.
Yeah. Love to see it.
Think about it. The best quarterback I've seen in my lifetime is Jay Cutler, who would just throw 3 picks every single time the game was played.
Jay Cutler.
Ew.
Miserable.
Jay Cutler.
Like, second best quarterback in my lifetime is either Trubisky, Kyle Orton, or Rex Grossman.
Hey, Rex Grossman took you guys to a Super Bowl.
What about Nick Foles?
Our best offensive play was a Devin Hester kick return that season. That was our best offense. It was just kicking the ball to Devin Hester.
Yeah. Devin Hester. Okay. That's all for me. I really want to thank you guys for coming on. You know, I couldn't think of 2 people I'd want to have on this podcast more than you guys, as much as we talk basketball. So, you know, hopefully we can do this a little more often when the season picks up.
Oh, I'd be so down.
I'd be down too, bro. This is awesome.
All right, awesome. Great. All right, cool. Thank you guys so much for coming on.
Anytime.
All right. I'm Dominic Mills. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Dominic Mills Podcast. Make sure to follow us on your favorite podcast directory so you never miss out on another episode.